Thank you very much for joining us today for at our first IFFR studio session. Of course, in normal times, with our wonderful HBF team, we will be now traveling all corners of the world to visit many festivals and meet with filmmakers and producers like you and discuss your upcoming projects. And it is tough on all of us not to be able to do that because we feel that to support, to connect, to nurture, and to present is at the very core of Hubert Bals Fund. So we are excited to have the opportunity to continue doing that via the digital realm. During today's panel, we will connect here from Rotterdam to Denmark, where Sharbano Sadat will be joining us. Arun Karthik is tuning in from India, and Alex Piperno from Uruguay. And they will discuss the challenges HBF filmmakers are currently facing. For those of you who are fired up after today's panel discussion, we have also made available HBF-supported films, including the works of today's panelists, available on IFFR Unleashed, which you can access from IFFR's website, and you're warmly invited to discover this wonderful collection. As for today's discussion, we would like to encourage you to participate in the panel and send in your questions in the chat here below. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jay Weisberg, who will be moderating the talk. Jay is, of course, well known as a film critic of Variety, but also as the director of the Pordenone Silent Film Festival, which is really a true gem. Jay, welcome. It's so lovely to see you.
Thank you very much. It's nice to join you.
Before we move on with discussion, can you tell us, I assume you're calling in from Italy, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about how the current situation has affected your work in particular, especially to Pordenone?
It's affected in multiple ways. With Variety, of course, we're reviewing far fewer films than we normally would at this time of year, so that's a bit dry. And with Pordenone, we were forced to cancel the festival, which happens, it should have happened October 3rd to 10th. So we're at the moment creating an online event.
So I would also like to hear, and I'm sure that the participants at this conversation would like to hear it as well. What do you hope that people viewing the discussion are going to take away from this panel? Yeah.
For me, the whole idea of this is to make a conversation that's interesting for all of us. I think with every friend that we speak to in the last 3 months, with every colleague that we speak to, there's a certain moment when you say, I wish we could stop talking about COVID. I wish we could stop talking about our experiences. And yet it's constantly inserting itself into our conversations, because that's what we're living at the moment. And how we're living that moment, I think, is what becomes really interesting. So what I'm hoping is that people are going to be able to understand how creativity is affected, how obviously distribution is affected, but there are so many factors that are coming in at this moment that is making it unique and difficult, and that's what I'm hoping to bring out, and that other people in the audience, when they ask their questions on chat, maybe can also contribute.
I can only say it's a perfect segue to give away the virtual mic to you and say the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much, Vanya. So the public here knows how this is going to proceed. We're going to be talking to the 3 filmmakers individually first for about 10 minutes or so. Then we'll have a conversation with everyone together. And then after that, we're opening it up to the public. So I do encourage everyone, please ask your questions on chat. We'll be filtering through them. I'll then read them out, and that way we can have what I hope is a conversation for the entire community, rather than just those of us who happen to be on the four tiles of the screen at the moment. We're going to start with Sharbano Sadat. Sharbano, whose film The Orphanage premiered in Cannes last year. Before that, her film Wolf and Sheep also was at Cannes. And Sharbano, you're from Afghanistan, of course, but at the moment you're in Copenhagen. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about why you're in Copenhagen, how long you've been there, and where you see yourself going afterwards.
Well, in January, I came to Rotterdam to present my film, The Orphanage, in the Voices section. And then I had this idea that maybe I should visit my producer who lived in Denmark. she just bought a huge flat in countryside in the middle of national park. So I thought, I mean, we both thought that maybe it's a good idea that I go there and then spend like a couple of months, and I can start on the new project and write a first draft. So I went there. I spent 2 beautiful months. Just 1 week before I could take my flight, the lockdown happened, and suddenly, all flights got canceled and I couldn't go. But I said to myself, maybe I have to take a little bit of adventure. So I tried to take the last plane to Kabul. But the last plane was in Stockholm, in Sweden. So I had to take the flight from Denmark, from Copenhagen to Stockholm in Sweden. And when I was there, I found out that the flight is kind of canceled and there is no other flight to Afghanistan. So I wanted to come back to Denmark, but then I realized that all borders, like Denmark closing all borders. So I was stuck in Sweden and I couldn't go to Afghanistan, neither back to Denmark. So I was invited for a festival before in Malmo called Boof, and I had a masterclass there, and I was supposed to show my my film there, but then the festival got canceled, like many other festivals. But the people from festival, they were so nice to me, and I got in contact with them, and then they booked me a hotel that was a sponsor for the festival in Malmo. So I stayed for a month in that hotel. That was a little bit a strange experience because I was there almost a month, and like I was in this empty hotel with the long corridors with so many rooms. I'm the kind of the only passenger, the only guest in that hotel, and working in the lobby on the script like the entire day, and it was very strange, but it was very nice also. Then I thought, okay, maybe I need to take another adventure. So how about I'm going back to Denmark? And I did, but I had to fake my document because I'm not resident of Denmark. I'm just a tourist. So I faked my documents, pretending that I am working in Denmark. So I took the train from Malmo to Copenhagen. When the train arrived in the airport, suddenly I saw Danish army there, and they were checking documents. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to end in the Danish prison all my life. And then I said to myself, come on, I'm a filmmaker. I can act a little bit. And then I took, like a very confident face. And then I showed my paper to the police. And he was like, okay, go. And then I ran from there to the metro station. I just ran before anyone could call me. And then since that time, I'm in Copenhagen, and I'm working on the script. I have 140 pages of the script so far, and it's not finished yet. And I don't know if I'm making if my next film is 3 hours, but it's very good. And actually there is something that I think is very interesting, because I am from Afghanistan and the only passport that I hold is from Kabul. So I'm used to deal with a lot of visa problem, and it's a hell. Like every time that because I'm working with European money, I'm working with European producer, every time for me coming to Europe, it's like a hell. It's like a nightmare of working paperwork and all this. But this time, in a way, it's very selfish what I'm saying, but in a way, it's very true, because Corona was kind of good for me, because I could stay with tourist visa almost 6 months in Europe now. And I could work on the script, which, like in Afghanistan, I don't have this opportunity. Like in Afghanistan, it's very noisy. It's very like, also in terms of like political situation, in terms of security, it's not really a place that any artist or a scriptwriter can have their own space and can really concentrate and work. So every time I'm coming to Europe or to any other residencies all over the world to work, and this time I ended up in Denmark. So I think it was good for me. I am very happy, no complaint.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Do you think all of this enforced isolation, because particularly for you, away from your home, has this changed your creative process at all? Has this changed how you envisioned the project you're writing on now, to what direction that was going?
Yeah, I think it does, because I really, really like this pause. I really appreciate this pause, this silence, this like many hours just behind the computer in a flat alone, because I think it was very, for me, it was very, very important to have this time, to get this time. And yeah, and I think I used the most out of it. I thought a lot about the film that I'm writing, the script that I'm working on, the cinema that I'm interested in. And yeah, and I also consider I also like think a lot about all the travels and trips that I was taking. I was all the time in traveling, and it was not really good for me, not also for climate. So I'm kind of reconsidering. I think I'm reconsidering all my trips in future. And yeah, but I definitely will go to Rotterdam because I like this festival a lot.
That's good to hear.
Rotterdam is the exception.
Very good to hear. Let's actually show a brief clip from the orphanage so the public has a chance to see something from the film right now, and then we'll come back to the discussion.
بشینین. شما دوتا بخیزین. بخی تو؟ آه. او بچه دکمایت بسته نکو بخی. آه بخی. چی خرمستی داشتین شما؟
ما نبودیم ما
چطور نبودین؟ صدایتان تا سر زینا می آمد. تو چرا یونیفرم نداری؟ تو بچه مکتب نیستی؟
امروز ساعت چرک بود میره پوش.
یک امروز چرک بود؟ من خود 4 روز است رای نمیرقم میبینم.
از بر روز اولم از مونسا.
من کور هستم؟
نه خدا نکنه.
نامت چیست؟
ما خود چیز کردم خب یک جشن بودم قصه داشتیم مونسا.
نامت پرسان کردم.
حسیب الله.
نام تو چی است؟
ما خود نبودیم مونسا.
من نامت پرسان کردم. نامت چیست؟
نام؟ کرنجیت سینگ.
نام از این قدرت الله است، شاگرد نو است، صنفیتان است، در درسام رایش کمک کنین. خب؟ برو بچه اونجا بشید.
Much. Sharbanu, I wanted to ask, when you and I spoke earlier last week, you talked about how there has been, in a sense, a certain shift in your thinking, that you're working more towards the idea of comedy and integrating comedy into an Afghani film that you really haven't seen before. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how perhaps your experience outside the country has forced you to investigate what it means to be an Afghani director.
Yeah, I think this is actually what is very, very important, like being able to write a script outside of the country, because the country itself is it's very dramatic in many senses, like it's very crowded, it's very noisy, as I said, like to concentrate and to write. And when I am there, I just think about like all the things that are happening, daily during the day. And, like, because things happening like really rapidly, fast, one after another, one really don't have the time to recover or, like think about, or react about these things. That's why I think why a lot of short films or documentaries that are made inside Afghanistan, they're always looking in tragedies and the things that are happening every day. And it's like they're portraying Afghanistan that, we know from the news. But when one artist, one filmmaker has the opportunity to write, to work, to think about a project outside of the country, just by not being in that location, in that atmosphere, he or she can gain a lot of different perspective, because this distance allow the artist to explore more and better. And this is something that happened to me because though I live in Afghanistan, I'm working with Europe since 2012, and like every time when I'm coming here, then I have to talk with the producer, with the crew, I'm involved, I know the industry, like all this stuff is helping me to think about what I really want to make. And I think I am interested in an Afghanistan that is not cliche, and it's really like close to Afghanistan that I experience in everyday life. And I think that picture of Afghanistan is actually very fun. I mean, when I'm saying Afghanistan, every people, I guess, they might just imagine like a war country, poor country, third country, people are dying, people are getting injured, like explosion, all this stuff. But I confirm that all these things are happening there. Yes, it's a war country, it's a third country, it's a poor country. But on the other hand, a massive amount of life is also going on. I think personally, my everyday life in Kabul is a comedy, really. And I have a lot of fun, and that's why I live there. I have my family there, I have my life there, and I see a future there. That's why I live there. And I thought, like with this current project that I'm working. It is a rom-com film. It is a comedy, and I think it's very interesting for me to explore it, like how, like to translate the life that I live there into an international language of filmmaking, that I can connect the international audience with the life in Afghanistan. So I think this is a very huge work, because it's just scary, even if you go to market and you say, I want to make a comedy about Afghanistan, people are like, are you crazy or what? Something from Afghanistan. But yes, I think it's fun. And this is really something that I really would love to do. But this kind of work is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And for doing it well done, you need time, and you need space, and you need concentration, and you need deep work. And I think I am gaining this deep work kind of now that I'm stuck in Copenhagen.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to do now is we're going to move on, and then but please stay with us, because we're going to be talking among the three of us a little bit later. Can we please roll now the clip from Nasir? Great, thank you very much. Arun, Karthik, I'm delighted to welcome you here with the HBF panel today. We're speaking to you. You're in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu, which is your hometown, I'm assuming.
Yes. Hi, Jay. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hey.
Yes. So I'm talking from Tamil Nadu in Coimbatore, my city. Yeah.
Great. Nice to see you. So your film, Nasir, which premiered in Rotterdam actually earlier this year, fell at a difficult moment, because suddenly you had the premiere, excellent reviews, festivals are calling, saying that they want to screen your film, and then suddenly COVID happens.
Yes. So it's absolutely unprecedented for all of us. So what we finished our film last year in the summer of 2019. And we were offered a competition slot in IFFR. So we happily took it, and we had to wait for a lot of months for IFFR to happen. And we were looking forward to IFFR, and we were doing all the preparations. And we landed up, a whole bunch of us, more than a dozen of us represented our film. And we were there in IFFR. And we had a really fun time. And then the film was quite well received in IFFR. And we had a lot of people telling us, okay, this whole year you're going to be busy. There's going to be a lot of traveling that you'll be doing this year and all of that. And we come back home, and then I was looking forward, trying to buy new clothes. Okay, now the thing starts and all of that. And then you start hearing all these horror stories from everywhere. And then you start thinking, because with other viruses, the south of India was not much affected by the earlier Ebola, this and that. So we were initially very casual as to, okay, this is one of those virus which would come and go. And then as things start escalating, and then you start thinking that everybody is going to be locked, and now I mean, it's for us. We started relooking at things from different standpoints. One is film, and the other thing, apart from film, there is a whole lot of life that all of us are living. So with the film, we started asking ourselves, like, what is the best thing to do? Where do we go from here? One, all the festivals we had about a dozen selections during March, and none of the festivals were happening. They were all confused as to should they go on or not, and all. So we knew that, okay, festivals are out for a few months now. So what do we do? And we also had a lot of producers on our film. We have about 6 companies, 5 Indian companies and 1 Dutch company. And all of them were also quite new. The Indian companies, they did not know like how is this going to play out, because once they came back from IFFR, fortunately we had an award. We got a kind of a visibility back home, and I was talking to people from the industry as to working out a limited release possibility, and people were quite welcoming. Actually, they said that okay, maybe 60 to 70 screens is possible. So our producers were kind of they had some expectation, and suddenly all of this expectation is now like gone out of the window. So we were reaching out to people, trying to know like what is the best thing to do. And not many people had ideas because everybody is kind of clueless in this difficult situation. So and that is when this We Are One film festival happened, this global film festival. So MAMI, Mumbai Film Festival from India, wanted to show our film on behalf of India in We Are One festival. And we between producers, we thought that okay, this could be a good way to reach to the audience, because primarily that is why we make the film. We want audience to watch the film. And if there is no way in the coming months that the film is going to be seen, then it's a pity, because we've been already waiting for about 8 months to get to IFFR, and we have a very good time in IFFR, and then if we are asked to wait for another 8 months, it feels like we didn't feel good about it. So we went ahead with the decision of having the film online, And once the schedule was announced, that is when we found out that actually we are the most recent film in the whole festival, because other festivals had given earlier. There were other 1 or 2 films, which were very recent. I think IFFR also showed a recent film, and few other festivals, but mostly festivals were showing a little older films who already had their festival run and all of that. So we were thinking, okay, maybe this would do good, that we are a new film would also be an advantage or something. So, and then the festival happened, and we actually had an overwhelming response. It was actually a good decision in hindsight to go to the online festival, because firstly, we had about 61,000 people watching our film, which we thought was very good for 24 hours in a span of day, all over the world. 62,000 people watching your work is something only online viewing can give, because then I started counting. Me and my producer were sitting and making counts, if we have to go to festivals, how many festivals would we have to go to, to get that number of 60,000, and that's pretty lot. You will have to go to probably 500 film festivals, for 60,000 people to watch. So we were just trying to see how things are changing, within the span of 24 hours, if you can reach a number of 50,000, 60,000 or 100,000. So the online potential is there, but at the same time, it has its downsides, the YouTube piracy issues. And we've also been facing the heat from some of the festivals which chose our film. They suddenly say that since we've made the film available online globally for 1 day, they are going to disqualify our film, So a few of the festivals disqualified our film. So, which was something we did not envision, because none of us knew that this is how people would react, or we are probably crossing policies or something here. So that was a little disappointing. But nevertheless, we were quite happy that a lot of people watched the film. Meaning, see, what I understood that this online festival space brings is, IFFR or another festival would only garner people who like to visit those festivals or who like to keep in track of the festival space. But suddenly, when it comes into a very common space like YouTube or something, you get people from all walks of life watching your film, because it's become as easy as somebody forwarding your YouTube link on a WhatsApp, and people put your film on groups, people just share it, and it's for free, So that actually brings people who generally don't watch films and all of that. They just want to try, just want to see what it is, So we had a lot of new, fresh viewers who otherwise I never thought could actually watch this film and might like this film, because this film is not a kind of cinema that is usually made in our state, So it was interesting that both people from the film industry, they got to watch my work in that one day, because a lot of filmmakers were tweeting about the film. Even from America, we had filmmakers like Sean Baker tweeting about the film, and popular filmmakers in India tweeting. So suddenly it created in that one day a lot of noise, and then people were watching, and we were getting messages from all quarters. People who, like my parents and my relatives, and all of them watching the film and saying, "Yeah, we like it, but that little shot is longer." This, that. But I was happy that they saw it. So that was probably the brightest point of this whole COVID era. Yeah.
Normally, we have this idea that if once your film gets pirated, once it's suddenly available online for free, it sort of kills everything, and you struggle with the idea of, okay, how are you going to get the producers and such, and to give you the faith to make your next project. In this case, it sounds actually like you might have hit a moment when it's worked for you, and hopefully worked for your next project. Do you see? Have you gotten in touch? Have people been in touch with you about your next project? Are people asking you, because of having seen it online for free, to help you further your next project?
Yes. Actually, one fortunate thing was all the producers who worked on Nasir, they want to go ahead with the next one, because even the Dutch company and the other producers, we had a good time making the film. There were not much of issues. Things were very transparent and clean. But actually, like you say, there have been two people, one from my own state. He wanted to be a part of Nasir, but he couldn't because this was new thing, and now he's seen the film, he's more confident that okay, this person can actually make a film and all of that. And now he's told me that, okay, you just tell me the budget, I'm in for your next. So both in terms of attracting some kind of because in my state, unless your film releases in a theater, you're not a filmmaker. It doesn't matter you've gone to Cannes or you've gone to Venice or Rotterdam. Unless posters are being stuck on the road, people can see your name on the posters on the road, only then you're a filmmaker. I mean, that includes my immediate community, my relatives, my friends, to everybody in the state. But what this YouTube festival did was, a lot of magazines and papers, news, press, made articles, and with all of these popular people tweeting about it, there was a sense of recognition that, okay, here is an independent film from Tamil Nadu. So what this recognition does is, not just for myself personally, but for the larger growth of independent cinema in our vicinity, it really helps, because there's hardly any independent film making. That there are 3 or 4 films, and 2 or 3 filmmakers coming up, but we don't have the tradition. We've never had the tradition of independent cinema. It's been completely a mainstream popular cinema and work. So for all of these mainstream people to understand, okay, here is a film which has gone through a co-production network, which has kind of collaborated with Europe and have made the film, and now the film is there available for us to watch, and now they've seen it and they have something to say about it. So this creates a kind of a conversation and connection, and that, I think, has worked to our advantage in this one.
Great. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to stop us now and move on, and then please stay with me, stay with us, as we then further discuss various issues that we've already begun to touch upon. So thank you very much. Can we please run Window Boy would also like to have a submarine.
Kanayon ano ako. Napagtangan tong kara. Yan nakitinig hitaan akong. Kita na uban di watcha. Mune mati ko metean na buayag teten na buagiwan mune aduan imit ninyam muna wadah tuh.
Te mari anti mit mangayu ya ma isiten tukawi.
Lukatan hinin panto. Naichutan man. Achitu meh na.
Ta kaya to na ten etako tinigo tuen hon etu gawi te mabati kayu Felix na ekaldeng ta adugan yo
ta umeak tek ibaga kon inayak ta umiari kanon yu. Pameta ko mo. Oh, meta ko.
Pagtumong pang kati po, bre.
Yan, ito kahit muna adog kayo.
Takon.
Iukot kayo mo na.
Amo na pudungan yun eh.
Great, thank you very much. Alex Piperno, welcome to the HBF Dialogue. You're in Argentina now, is that correct?
That's correct.
Great.
How are you, Jay?
I'm well, thanks.
Nice to meet you again.
Indeed, and good morning.
Good morning.
Your film premiered at the Berlinale Forum. It won the Tagesspieler Readers Award, which was great. Now is the moment, generally, when you would probably be traveling around with the film, which would also mean that any focus, any attention that you would like to give to your next project would be shot to hell. Instead, you're quarantined, you're stuck at home, and you can't go out. So how has this affected your thoughts about your next project?
Yes, it's true. It's nice to hear Arun and his happiness with what's happening with his film. In my case, I didn't decide, but I just discovered myself writing my second feature film, my script. I usually take a very, very long time to find a project, to write the project, and now it seems to be a kind of COVID residence for script writing, and so I am doing that. I think that a good thing is that I am having something to do with my desire. I guess that if I was traveling around the world with the film, which would be wonderful, and I am, of course, missing that so much, I would be like a monkey behind the film and don't knowing what to do with my desire, because it's something which is already done for me. So on the good thing of this COVID residence is that I am having something to do, and very fond of this, the writing of the second film, discovering this new film, and it's nice to discover something again after so many years of the same project. So that's kind of good thing of this moment.
From our previous discussion, if I remember correctly, you said that you have been really working on the Window Boy script for about 10 years. And now that there's this enforced isolation, has that changed your approach to the next project?
Yes, I think it's a process, no? So the isolation comes in a moment when something has happened before. Of course, it weren't 10 years of writing the script, because there was not a script. I guess they were always changing the treatment or the scenes. It's not just a real script, but a way of approaching the project in different ways, because I have been changing for these 10 years, of course. So how to make it new on one hand that, and on one hand it's also true that it was my first feature as a script writer, director, and producer. So I was looking for not reference, but guides, monks to follow, in a formal way. And now I feel much lighter having this film already premiered. So it's I am much older now, and I can feel better with the unknown of myself. So I am having this new film, which I don't know how I'm gonna shoot it, and it's a very new material for me. I wrote down 2 years of WhatsApp conversation with my ex-partner, which we are together again, and we are working together in this project. She's not a filmmaker, but she's becoming a filmmaker. And so it's with a lot of dialogues. As you've seen, my Window Boy has not so many dialogues, and this one would be this new texture, this new material of the dialogues, which where I don't know how to shoot them. And that feels fine for me now. It's fine not to know how to shoot this film. So I am enjoying this moment of uncertainty, the COVID one and the new feature one, and it feels fine, I must say.
Which is great to hear. In interviews that you gave after the Berlinale, or even just before the Berlinale, you sort of dismissed the idea. You weren't looking for people to interpret your film. You wanted them to feel it more than to sort of say, "Oh, you're doing this because of that." Are you still working with that sense of pushing aside boxes to get at something that's perhaps deeper?
I don't know what is to interpret or to feel. I mean, I think that everybody, I mean, at least I work with my limitations. So it's very hard for me to understand any film. I mean, I'm very bad of understanding the plot. So I think it's a way of approaching life. So I am not so much fond of plots or clear things because I never get it. I don't know what to do or why to shoot a realistic film. I don't know what to do with that. I really don't know what to do with that. So I don't feel like a strange guy having this approach. I think that's my own approach.
Yes, but you're not feeling any pressure, are you, to make a particular kind of film?
My own, which is a lot already.
That's the worst pressure of all.
Yes. That's enough.
Are you planning on shooting it where? In Argentina or in Uruguay? Or
naturally, it's going to both sides of the river. I don't know much because it's in the middle of the battle, but I guess it will be somehow in both parts in the two countries. Yes, but for sure it's not going to be shot in Philippines. That's very clear for me now. On a ship, also not anymore.
Okay.
No, because it's fine because I had to go to the other side of the world to understand that you can make a fantastical film in your own town. So now that I learned that, I'm gonna try to use it.
Okay, great. I like this idea that Charbonneau has talked about, of the idea of a sort of looking bigger, of the challenge of bigger films. Where do you see yourself in that moment right now? Nasir is a very low budget, independent. I would never call it a small film because it's a film that's so full of emotion and meaning that it transcends any kind of limitations of an independent format. But how are you seeing your next film possibly? Also because since you aren't traveling now, like Alex was saying as well, is this also allowing you to look at what comes next?
Yes, so about my next film, I have chanced upon an incident or an idea from my village where I live, which in itself is big. There are suddenly this number of characters in the film, and I mean, it's actually big in terms of its dramatic development, and also on the number of characters, and also about the number of events that happen in the film. So it's way different from Nasir in terms of scale, and also in terms of the characterization and the tone of the film, because since this is a totally different landscape and the different community and different kind of people, the tone to everything is going to be different in this film. And it doesn't come from a choice of, okay, I'm going to make a different film. No, I just happened to hear this incident, which was for the last few years, I've been like really influenced by this incident. And so interestingly, even though there are lots of horror stories, COVID for me has been working in a different way. So I've been home the last 3 months. So the previous few months, I've been in our capital city, Chennai. I was doing a part-time job there, teaching in a film school, and then I was just traveling for the films and doing all these things. So I was not spending enough time back home. I stay with my parents in a village here. So we are surrounded by mountains. It's on the foothills. So the film that I want to make next is set in this place. And now I'm back here, and I have all the time to connect back with all my friends from the village all these friends who were otherwise working in different cities, they've all come back to home, and everybody's back home, and now we have nothing but to just every day we meet, we play, we drink, and there's a lot of partying going on. And all of this is happening in the location of my film, of my future film, So, and more importantly, a certain realization has happened for me. What is that? I've been looking at stories of people who've been migrating from, one city to the other, going back home, And coincidentally, my story is about a guy who comes back home after 20 years and he starts asking for a share on their ancestral land. And then the families start, they don't want to give him the land, and it starts off a huge, a lot of drama happens basically after that. So I was thinking, because a real guy came like 6 years back, my sister's husband's brother actually showed up after 23 years or something, and he told like, I am the brother. So from this incident, I had written, something and all of that. And I was always thinking, okay, what was he doing all these days? And that was kind of like the main question. Okay, what was he doing and why did he come? And now with COVID, it's just, it gave me the realization it doesn't matter, because after COVID, in this era, the top priority for everybody or most of the people I talk to is they want to feel a sense of home. They are tired of living elsewhere, living in a rented place. In a time of disaster like this, they understand how important it is to have shelter, how important is it to own a piece of land where if there is, all stores are going to be locked tomorrow, you can, put your own tomatoes and you can just take and eat. So I come from a pastoral village where agriculture is the main thing still, and we have brick manufacturing and agriculture. So people feel like, why did I move to the city? I should be, I would totally be at peace living in my piece of land, growing whatever little things that I could grow there and eat. And that in that way, even if a pandemic were to happen outside, it wouldn't, affect you a lot, But if you are living in spaces which you don't own, or you are like working as a marginal person there, then it changes your reality. So this overall consciousness about people wanting to have a piece of shelter, a piece of land, to own it, to go back to their roots, has actually given me ideas to work on my film. Now I don't have to justify the fact that why is he coming or where is he coming, because everybody is now going back to their hometown and they are planning to do something in their hometown. So my next work starts from where Corona, the effect of Corona has in a way subjugated, where it's going to be about a person who wants to find his roots and be there, and what is this society going to do to him? Because that is also not an easy thing, because you're going to be looked at as an outsider. You come from somewhere suddenly, and suddenly you can't. And I live in a place where people of the same community, there are like thousands of us of the same community. So everybody knows everyone. So the equation is very different. It's like a very small town kind of a situation. So I'm quite excited both for the scale of the film and also for the thematic. And also something that when Sharbanu was talking, I was thinking that it works in the reverse for me, that I have to belong to a place of film, actually. Like I have to write it from there, because part of my writing happens from my observation of reality, the friends that I make there, hearing out their stories, and like basically hanging out with them, actually. So even for Nasir, I stayed in the location for 2 years, and with the Hubert Bals money, I was doing the pre-production, and I'll have to tell you that I made a kind of a tactical step, that I took the first installment of Hubert Bals money at that time when I was making Nasir, which helped me for the pre-production and all. And recently, after the premiere, because since I had producers, they were also supporting me, I didn't have to take the second half. And recently, after the premiere of the film, I requested Hubert Bals for the second installment. And that is basically running my whole COVID time. I don't have a job, I have nothing to do, but I have this money from Hubert Bals, and I can sit and like write my next film. I'm super happy about that.
Terrific. Alex, I'm not sure if you're muted or not, so just check. Because I'd like to further this idea of how your relationship to the concept of home has changed in the last few months, and whether you see that that's something you want to reflect in your work.
I stay a lot at home in the good old life. I mean, I am very I work, I mean, in the office. I write at home. I mean, I am not so much a filmmaker who shoots a lot. So the shooting and the festival are exceptional moments in my life. Maybe in this moment it was gonna be the other way around, but it didn't happen. So I am quite used to staying home, and I guess I like it. I should say I discovered now that I was used to, and I like it. And so it didn't change so much my regular lifestyle. Of course, I need the beer outside with the friends and so on. I need so much those beers, but beside that, it's quite fine, and it's nice not to have so many information from outside, so I can have time to write and to take my time to get inside this new universe and so on. So that's something's fine. Then, well, I have my intimacy, and I have which is also part of working, you know, because it's all it's something, one thing. So I mean, I am discovering, feeling right. I mean, that's your question. I now I understood. I am feeling like kind of legitimation of staying home. That was kind of a struggle, ethical struggle, I mean, I was feeling not so good because I should be doing anything outside home and not staying so much time here, and I didn't feel so well with that. And now suddenly everybody's staying at home, so something about that changed me because now I feel, okay, this is the correct thing to do finally. So finally I can enjoy writing, I can enjoy watching films and not thinking that something like not doing nothing. And also the film, the premiere in Berlin appeared in that moment, so suddenly making a film is something which is okay, you know, because we're so many years struggling with this project, understanding how to do a film, and suddenly everything is in a good shape and in a good place. So I think that's also part of assuming my job, I guess, as a filmmaker, which is something, an important thing, because it's not so easy, because I am not always shooting, I am not always working as a filmmaker, but yes, thinking and living in a way as a filmmaker. And now is everything in the good place, I guess. So I won't thank the COVID for all this, but I think it has something to do with my own process. But in a way, it happens now. Yes.
Great. I'm going to read out some of the questions that we've been receiving in the last 15, 20 minutes or so, which are directed to various people. One from Rohan, who says he's interested in this tension between localism and internationalism. That seems to be something that both Alex and Sharbanu have begun to wrestle with. And there's this tension, perhaps, between the idea of making a film that's very local, but then also that is to be seen, to be marketed in an international way. And how has that tension between the two, has that changed for you? Have you come to appreciate the benefits and the drawbacks of that since COVID, or do you think it's not really affected?
I think I don't feel the consequence of COVID yet in my writing, I guess. So I cannot say that the COVID gate has changed me already in the way of writing. And regarding the issue of being local and international, I don't think about that at all. Maybe it's strange because the film, the window has a lot to do with that, but I think it's just like part of the inside universe you make, and not something to do with trying to approach others you don't know. The nice thing for me is approaching others without knowing that. Like the premiere in Berlin with the audience was wonderful in that sense. It was a surprise because suddenly you understand that a lot of people is feeling like you, and I didn't expect at all that, and that's wonderful.
Sharbanu, do you have your own experiences to add to this?
Yeah, I think it's a fight to make a local film in an international language. It is also a process. For example, I come from documentary world, and as I said, I was very attached to reality and truth. And I came from cinema and emphasize is really on truth and reality. And I myself, I'm very obsessed with showing true picture of Afghanistan, because the country is a war country. Any kind of war countries, they are kind of cliche in cinema and media, and the films that we're seeing from those countries, they're not really satisfying, and it's always showing one picture, repeating it all over the time. And it's kind of, like now Afghanistan, though we don't have a cinema industry, but Afghanistan is shown in many, many films. And the audience have an imagination of Afghanistan in their mind, which is not true, which is like just cliche making, I don't know, by filmmakers that they didn't know that much about Afghanistan, or their point of view is shallow or not really deep into the society. But now the work of filmmakers like me who want to stand for Afghanistan is to remove that picture first, and then to establish another picture which is more close to the reality in Afghanistan today. And I think in the very beginning I didn't decide that, okay, I want to make a local film with international, in a bigger setup, or with European production company and stuff like this. In the beginning I just wanted to make like a fiction film that is so real, that is so like reality. And then I realized that it doesn't make sense what I'm doing, because we don't have a cinema industry in Afghanistan. We don't have cinema theater in Afghanistan. So even if I make film, the only way that Afghan audience that can reach my film is YouTube. And I cannot just make film and put it on YouTube, because I'm not doing it with my own money, and there are like producers and other monies behind the film, and they expect a proper distribution and going to cinema, releasing in cinema theater and stuff like this. And then I thought, okay, what about if I reach the international audience that also is included Afghan audience? Because there are many Afghans. There are almost like between 6-7 million Afghans immigrated all over the world, and also because the language is Persian, then also people from Iran or Tajikistan, they also speak Persian, so they also can kind of understand the film, so they're also kind of audience for my films. And I thought maybe this international audience is a bigger umbrella for my films that they can go under. And yeah,
you're discussing about the question of truth and what is truth. Fits very nicely with the question, Arun, that's been addressed to you from Karthik. Was it a challenge to cast a Muslim character? And especially with the problems in India, was it difficult to shoot a film that speaks the truth?
It was a challenge making the film, but not so much casting a Muslim actor, because one thing that when I decided I'd make the film, I thought that I'll stay in the same locality. Even though I'm from the same town, I went into the exact neighborhood where the character would live. And that neighborhood is completely Muslim. And even though there are a lot of right-wing organizations, all of that, and nobody has actually created a problem as in when I was making the film, there wasn't anybody who's coming and looking at my work, because how do you represent this truth, or how do you narrate this truth? That was a challenge. And I had my film is an adaptation of a short story, so I had the backbone of the short story to fall back upon. The writer of the short story had already characterized the character. He had already situated him in a certain kind of a milieu, and there was the reality for me to be seen, and that reality forced me into making this film, because I was seeing things which was worrying me, and then I had read this short story which was kind of obsessing me, and then I thought, okay, this is the truth that I've been seeing. I've personally seen it, and kind of in a way personally felt it also, because there was a riot in my own neighborhood and one of my shops was bashed. So I was personally also kind of involved in this. So I knew that this was the truth. Now, how do you narrate this truth is the challenge of cinema. How do you use all these tools that you have, all these cinematic tools, and also the external factors of like budgets and releases, distribution. How do you use all of this to tell the truth? And definitely that was challenging, but we were able to meet the challenge with a very collaborative crew and with a very supportive group of producers and with a lot of belief that, okay, if we are behind what we think is truth, then I think we naturally the story or this whole process gives us the energy, and it like pushes us towards this pursuit of the truth. So the challenge is there, but just your quest for the truth gives you that energy to like meet the challenge, I would say.
Thank you. A question from Francis. Your film is available on the IFFR Unleashed platform. So the question is, what are your thoughts about presenting new films through VOD?
I thought about the film in a big screen, of course, and that's different. And I asked to myself if the small screens should have more like strong scripts, strong classical scripts as the Netflix, because it's true that the cinematic thing needs other space and time, and I don't know what to think about that. I mean, probably we are getting old and cinema is turning to be another thing, but I cannot think so much about that, so I am not doing it. I guess that small screens needs different films, that's for sure. Hopefully people can have their own projectors and have their own big screens, but it's a question, it's really a question.
So how do you make a film that is true to what you're feeling without thinking, will this jive with people who are watching it at Rotterdam or with people who are watching it in Cannes or what have you?
Yeah, well, I think I actually didn't think about this before, It's I think it's so natural that a filmmaker just make something that it's her or his own thinking or world, or something that she or he thinks that is important to say or is important to share, and to just fight for it to the end. And it's not very easy. Like when you want to, I mean, everyone knows that it's not very easy when you want to make something personal. Then you have to really have to have something to say, because otherwise it's just really not easy to compete, and it's not easy to defend the project. And for example, in my case, as I said, I'm very obsessed with Afghanistan, with true Afghanistan, all these words, but also I'm very obsessed with the everyday life of people in Afghanistan and ordinary people in Afghanistan, because I think ordinary people, they are the one that they experiencing things that happening in the country, and they are the one that their point of view, their perspective are never seen or never heard. And like whenever we are talking about Afghanistan, we are talking about politics, we are talking about like big important issues, but not really giving the voice to the ordinary people. And that's a cinema that I'm interested to give the stage to ordinary people, and to the story that they are very routine, they're very everyday life, and they look like they're not important, but they are the base, they are the fundamental of the entire community or society. And and one of the biggest challenge for me is to finance this kind of stories, because especially, for example, if I talk about my own case, when I and my producer, we are financing the films, very big question is coming up, and that's like, yes, your story is good, we liked it, but we didn't see Afghanistan there, and I often got the feedback like, yeah, maybe you're a young filmmaker, women filmmaker, maybe it's better that you talk about female, women situation, like feminism, like this kind of stuff that it doesn't make sense for me at all, especially after the movement of Me Too. I think there is a lot of focus on female stories, female perspective. But on the other hand, I think like it's also important not only put the female in front of the camera, but also female behind the camera. Because though for example, my two last films, the characters, the protagonists, they're mainly boys and guys and men, but it doesn't matter. I think what is matter is like there is a feminine voice behind the camera, and I think that's a cinema that I really interested, because usually Afghanistan is introduced by war and by showing violence and bloody and all of this stuff, and suddenly I'm making kind of films that I do not talk about war. I do not talk about fight, and that's absolutely a pure feminine point of view, I think. And and I think it is very interesting. It is a fight. It is but I think it's also very natural, because I don't think that a filmmaker should think like, oh, okay, I'm making a personal film, but what shall I do to think about festivals or to think about audience? Because as soon as as soon as one think about festival or audience, suddenly you change your route, you change your direction. It's better that you stay to what you think it's important, and then the whole world has to adapt with you. I think this is
Great. Alex, I'm going to take that question and change it a little bit in the sense that I've been thinking, for example, how do you feel that it's necessary for you in a way to fit into the category of independent Latin American film director, which fits to the question of how do you keep something personal and yet appeal also to a film festival audience. Romanian directors, for example, really hated the concept of the Romanian New Wave because they felt that they were all very individual, and to group them together was a problem. I think we are experiencing another problem now with South American independent filmmakers. I think there too is an idea of grouping everyone together in order to put them into a category. Do you feel that you're actively resisting this? Does this create a problem for you?
Of course, I don't feel myself as a Latin American filmmaker, because when you say that I am a Latin American filmmaker, you say that from outside Latin America. If not, I am a filmmaker or whatever, but I mean, that category is from outside always. So that's strange to think myself as something outside myself, you know. On one hand, that of course you share the environment, I mean the social and political and economical stuff with others in your country and your continent, but that's so open, so wide. How I mean, why would you invent those categories? I am of course not thinking about those categories, and also it's fun to discover that there are so many Argentinian or Uruguayan different cinemas, and that's a good thing for us. And I hope so that for you also, because it's our work, our job has to do with break those categories, not to make them. So that's not a question for me. The question is, how should I approach to my environment, and in which singular way, but not because I need to be different or I need to be appealing, because I need to have fun in life, or I mean to be triggered by things. I mean that's the most important thing. And I guess that when you are having this intense relationship with things, and also fun relationship with things, fun in an open sense, right? Others also feel that. I think that the films are like persons. I mean, you know, when other person is nice, maybe you don't like him or her at a whole, but the things that you find closer or not, but you feel the sincere feeling and the yes, and that's the most important thing, the chemistry between you and others, and you cannot control that. So I am very interested in not controlling that, and being as sincere as possible with myself, and that's the only answer for me. Then the other things come alone, or at least I hope so. But yes, I mean, our job has to do with working with our feelings, working with our fears, and let's work with them, and that's all, I guess. I mean, then the industry itself will make the package and all that, but that's not our job.
No, I agree. It's not your job. That's an excellent way to wrap things up and to end. I want to thank everyone here, Sharbanu, Aaron, Alex, for allowing us to get a glimpse into your work right now, into your lives. And I hope very much that we have an opportunity to check in with you when, hopefully in person, even better, in the near future. So all the best to everyone here.